All right, let's jump into this deep dive. And you know what we're digging into today? Play.
Play.
But hold on. Before you think this is just a trip down memory lane, we're going way deeper than just remembering our favorite childhood toys.
Right.
And I gotta say, when I saw the sources you sent over, especially that one about how play links to like huge tech innovations that color me intrigued.
Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. And it really makes you think.
It does. Okay, so that first piece you shared, the one about the science behind play, that one really grabbed my attention. Turns out play isn't just kids messing around.
It's way more than that.
Right, it has this whole impact on our brains.
Absolutely. It's like building cognitive flexibility, right?
Oh, totally. Like when kids play pretend, they're always switching roles, coming up with new situations. That's cognitive flexibility in action. And it makes you wonder, could we be nurturing that same flexibility as adults just by doing more playful stuff?
I think so, yeah. And it's easy to just dismiss play as something frivolous, something you leave behind as you grow up. But that's where I think we miss out on its real power, that open-ended exploration, the willingness to just experiment and imagine. That's not childish. That's the foundation of what we now call design thinking.
Design thinking. Okay, I've heard that term, but honestly, not sure I totally get it.
So it's basically a way of tackling problems
Yeah.
and coming up with solutions that are actually innovative.
Yeah.
And companies are putting serious money behind this stuff. But at its core, it's about empathy, right? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes, then experimenting, trying things out until you hit on a solution that works. And those core principles, empathy, experimentation, trying things out, those are all rooted in how we play, even if we don't realize it.
Wow, I never thought of it like that. It's like play is hardwired into how we come up with new ideas.
Right.
That reminds me of that story about how, like, Google lets their employees spend a chunk of their time on passion projects, whatever they want.
Exactly. That's a perfect example.
Giving people that space to be playful, to experiment. I love it. You know, this whole exploration of play got me thinking it's not just something we do, right?
Yeah.
It's like it has its own whole history, its own evolution.
Oh, absolutely. It's a fascinating history, too.
And you know what's really cool? That source you sent, it goes into this whole timeline of play. And turns out it's been a topic of conversation for ages. Even those super smart ancient Greek philosophers, they were all about play. Didn't see it as silly or a waste of time at all.
Mhm.
For them, it was all about learning and building character.
And it's not just them. Fast forward a bit, you have Froebel and the whole kindergarten movement.
Oh, right. That's where our modern idea of play-based learning really came from. Play-Doh, building blocks, all those finger painting masterpieces.
Exactly.
It all goes back to Froebel's idea that kids learn best by exploring and discovering.
And what's even more interesting is that even someone like Freud, and he wasn't exactly known for being.
Right, Mr. Psychoanalysis himself. Not exactly all sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly. But even Freud knew how important play is for our minds, especially for processing emotions, even the tough stuff. It's like a release valve, but also a way to work through things in a safe way,
Yeah.
which just goes to show you what might seem frivolous on the surface, a kid playing with dolls or action figures, it actually has these deep roots in how our minds work.
Okay, so play's got this long history. It's not just about fun, though, I mean, fun is definitely a good thing.
Of course, of course.
But I gotta say, for me, and I'm guessing for our listener too, I need to see how this actually works in the real world. You know what I mean?
Oh, you want to see it in action.
Totally. So
Right.
give me some examples here. Those sources you shared had some really interesting ones.
Okay, let's start with something I'm betting you're familiar with, Lego.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. But Lego, that's a toy, right?
Well, yes and no. Think about what Lego is all about. That open-ended play, the creativity, the way you can build and rebuild. Just experiment, try different things.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. Lego's not just for kids anymore.
Oh, really?
It's being used in some pretty surprising ways these days.
Like what? Don't tell me there's like Lego master certifications for adults now or something.
I'm not kidding. There are actually certified people who use Lego for serious problem solving with adults.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, it's called Lego Serious Play, no joke.
Yeah.
And it's used by companies, teams, even big organizations to help with innovation, collaboration, the whole deal.
Wow, Lego serious play. Never would have thought. But it makes sense. That playful energy we usually think of as like a kid thing being used to actually solve real world problems.
Exactly. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. When we're in that playful mode, we're more open to taking risks, trying new things, thinking outside the box.
Mm.
And those are all things you need for real innovation.
Okay, that's one example. What else you got?
Let's shift gears a bit. From physical play to the digital world. Ever played Minecraft?
Okay, now you're taking me back. I may or may not have spent an embarrassing amount of time building stuff in Minecraft, but what's your point? It's a video game, right?
It is, but it's also a perfect example of how play can lead to amazing creativity and problem solving. Think about what makes Minecraft so addictive, right? It's not about crazy graphics or some set story you have to follow. It's all about giving the players the tools to build their own worlds, their own goals, solve problems their own way.
True, true. And it's not just messing around either. I remember reading about schools using Minecraft to teach like everything, history, coding.
Exactly. It's a great example of how that line between playing and learning, entertainment and education, it can get really blurry in the best way possible.
So we've got Lego, we've got Minecraft, both huge companies built on ideas we usually think of as kids stuff. It's pretty clear play is not just a way to pass the time. It's really deeply tied into how we learn, how we create, how we come up with new things.
And it's not just Legos and video games either. Let's talk about a different kind of player. John Cleese.
Wait, John Cleese, as in Monty Python, Silly Walks, Ministry of Silly Walks, that John Cleese? What's he got to do with all this?
You might be surprised. John Cleese, besides being hilarious, actually has some really smart things to say about creativity. He talks about this thing he calls the open mode of thinking.
Open mode. Okay, now I'm really curious. Tell me more.
So basically the open mode, it's that state of mind where you're more relaxed, you're playful, open to new ideas. Cleese says this is where real creativity comes from. It's like silencing that voice in your head that's always saying, be realistic or do it this way, and just letting yourself explore and experiment without judging yourself.
So is it kind of like that feeling you get when you're lost in a good book? Or you're totally absorbed in a hobby you love, where time just disappears and you're just in the moment?
Exactly. It's about getting out of your own head and into that flow state where creativity can actually happen.
And you're saying John Cleese thinks this open mode, it's crucial for being innovative, not just for comedy, but for anything.
Absolutely. He says it's essential for solving problems, having new ideas, seeing things in a fresh way. And he's not the only one. Remember those tech companies that encourage their employees to take some time for passion projects? That's all about tapping into that open mode.
So it's like we all have this open mode inside us, just waiting to be unleashed.
Exactly. But here's the catch. As adults, we tend to stifle that playful, open-minded part of ourselves. We get so caught up in being serious, doing things the right way, we forget how to just be playful and curious.
And that's where we go wrong.
In a way, yeah. We lose that willingness to experiment, to make mistakes, to see the world with fresh eyes. And without those things, it's really hard to come up with anything truly new.
It's kind of crazy, right? We think of play like it's something you grow out of. But it seems like this whole open mode thing, this playful way of solving problems, that's got to be useful no matter how old you are.
Oh, absolutely. And, this brings up a really important point. It's not enough to just, understand the power of play in our heads.
Yeah.
We got to actually live it, especially as adults.
Right. Easy to say play is important and then go right back to our to-do lists and our crazy schedules. So for our listener, and okay, for me too, how do we actually play more? What are some actual things we can do?
Well, first thing to remember, play doesn't have to be some big planned out thing, right? It's not like we need to block off playtime in our calendars. It's more about finding little ways to be playful throughout the day.
Okay, so what's an example of that? Like, what does that look like in real life?
Could be as simple as taking 5 minutes to doodle or put on your favorite song. Could be trying a new recipe, taking a different route home from work. Even just having a fun, silly conversation with a coworker.
So it's about bringing that curiosity, that willingness to experiment into our everyday routines.
Exactly. It's about shifting that mindset from seriousness and routine to being open and seeing possibilities.
I like that. So it's not about adding more stuff to do. It's about doing the stuff we already do, but with a more playful attitude.
Exactly. And, this circles back to what we talked about before about play being like training for life. When we let ourselves play, even in small ways, we're working those creative muscles, getting better at handling whatever life throws at us.
Love that. Like we're giving ourselves permission to be more curious, more present, more alive in our everyday lives.
And, it makes you think, if play is this important for learning, for innovating, even for just feeling good, shouldn't we be taking it way more seriously, not just as individuals, but as a society?
That's a big question right there. What would that even look like? Creating spaces where play is valued, encouraged, not just for kids, but for everyone.
$1 million question. Might mean rethinking how we educate kids, how our workplaces are designed, even how we build our communities.
It's like we've stumbled onto this untapped superpower, this force for good that we've been kind of ignoring.
Totally. And it all starts with recognizing that play.
Yeah.
It's not frivolous, it's fundamental, it's not something to shy away from, it's something to embrace and celebrate.
This has been, without a doubt, one of the most eye-opening deep dives we've done. Definitely given me, and I'm hoping our listener too, a lot to think about. So as we wrap up here, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from all of this?
Don't underestimate the power of play. Hold on to those moments of joy, of curiosity, of wonder, no matter how small they seem. You never know where they might lead.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think it's time for me to go dust off my old Legos. Who knows what brilliant ideas are hiding in there? Thanks for joining us on this playful exploration, everyone. Until next time, keep playing.